What's up, hobby friends, and welcome back to Paint Bravely, the podcast where you can find a little bit of encouragement, discover new ways to make your hobby more fun, and most importantly, learn to paint bravely. Now, we got a lot of good hobby stuff to talk about, some different types of miniatures, different types of games, a lot of stuff going on. So why don't we jump right into it by seeing what Brent's been up to in the last couple weeks for some hobby.
Frameworks update.
News.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frameworks update.
All right, here's the deal, Internet. Frameworks was supposed to be the next new big thing from Dungeons and Dragons plastic miniatures to get all those D&D nerds into being painting nerds, and they were the chosen one, and they screwed it up. So, and I went all out trying to hype this up, and nobody followed me down that pathway, and so this is what you get, periodic framework updates on Paint Bravely, the podcast, where you can learn to paint bravely and try some new things. And, well, I got a Drider here. This is where we're going with this. So, WizKids does have, in my opinion, the best, one single box learn to paint kits that are out there right now. So they've got these kits called Paint Night kits that are normally a Nulzer's Mini, like a larger monster of some kind. They have 12 little special pots of Vallejo, I don't know if it's game color or model color.
Probably game color, but...
Yeah, it seemed a little glossy. I'm feeling like I'm remembering names that were more model color, but it was a little more glossy, so if they could game color, whatever, it doesn't matter. Pretty good Vallejo paints.
Yeah.
And 2 brushes, and then there's, plastic in there they can use for a little palette or whatever. But in terms of being a single box, this is literally everything you need to paint. I think it's the best one on the market. It's $25 if it doesn't have some crazy discount going on. And I know that my local store, Crossroad Games, will periodically have paint night events where you show up, you get one of these kits, you hang around for a few hours, and you paint up a Nulzer's monster. Cool. And anyway, a few months back, I did a red slad, and that was pretty good.
Yeah,
because the Nulzers are normally like one-piece miniatures by the time you get them, and they're pre-primed and ready to go. The fact that they're a monster means they're big enough so that the cheap brush in the kit works pretty well. Cool.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be super pointy. It's not tiny little details everywhere. You can kind of slap paint on, have a good time, see if you even like, the whole painting models thing.
Yeah. And serious praise, I think that's the best box on the market. I am hopeful that other companies will step up their game and try to do something similar, but for now, Paint Night kits from WizKids, awesome. WizKids did do a variant of that where they swapped out the Nulzer's miniature and they put in some sprues for frameworks. And I think the first and so far only kit that they've done is the Drider. So
now for all, you might want to explain what that is, because I do not know what a Drider is. It sounds like spider.
That's a good
point.
Else. The folks who don't know who Drizzt de Erden is might not know what a Drider is. I feel like those...
And we know there's lots of those.
That Venn diagram of Drizzt de Erden knowledge and Drider knowledge, that's a circle. Like if you...
Right. Yeah, it's a solid single circle. Yeah.
Okay.
Although me saying that kind of disproves that, right? I know who Drizzt is. I've read books. I literally don't know what a Drider is. So there you go. Take that.
The first 2 letters are the first 2 letters of Drow. So der.
Okay. See, I almost said Drow.
And then Eider is the last Eider in Spider. So you swap out SP for DR, you got a Drider spider. So it is half drow, half spider. It is like the minotaur of drows and spiders. Yeah.
See, I guess I could have guessed that. I almost did, but I didn't want to sound stupid.
Yeah.
Be like drow, no.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, first off, It is a multi-part kit. It's got a couple bits for the body, couple bits for the torso and head and weapons, and then of course you got 8 legs because it is a spider under all that drow. Yep. Mm-hmm. So everybody else at this table, like I went to Crossroad Games to do a painting event, and one of the guys, my guy Jeff, was like, "Hey, we got a Drider out back. Do you want me to grab that for you? We check out the Drider kit." Yeah, give me that Drider kit, because I wasn't feeling the big eyeball thing that a bunch of other people were doing. You give me that Drider kit. Yeah. Well,
yeah. The Beholder. Mm-hmm.
It actually wasn't.
Crap. See, now I just look stupid.
I mean, it was a Beholder. It was a giant eye, and then a lot of stalks of little eyes. But it was called like something
other
else,
version
like
of that.
like a haunting eye. Or doesn't matter. It don't matter.
Stupid.
You're just striking out on your D&D knowledge today, aren't you, Casey?
Well, that's the thing. Like, the first one, I almost guessed right. And the second one, like, is a Beholder, but it's not. Come on, man. Like, that's not fair.
Fair enough. But anyway, there were a bunch of, 10, 11-year-old kids who were just getting right into their kits and painting up these minis. And here I am. Luckily, I had brought some clippers, a knife, and some glue, because I spent the first hour and a half putting together my Drider.
Yeah, I mean, these Frameworks kits have pieces. They're parts and pieces, and, that already seems like a not a great start for, like, a paint and take type of situation, where, like, the Nilsers makes a lot of sense.
Right. And I think this box was called Paint Kit instead of a, like, Paint Night kit. Like, kind of...
Right, so not maybe necessarily designed for that, but still leaning towards that. Yeah.
But, like, the design of the box, the actual innards of the box, it was the exact same design of the 12 little pots of Vallejo paint. The kind of the plastic packaging innards of the box was exactly a Paint Night kit. It's just they swapped out the model. Okay, so yes, using the extra tools that I had that were definitely not in the kit, I did put together my Drider. And the channel Paint to Life actually did a little review on this Drider kit from Frameworks, and it's kind of funny. The bulk of the review was just they had cut off all the legs without realizing that they weren't keyed to be really unambiguous. They're very
specific,
but it did matter where they go.
The worst situation you can find yourself in. I've done that so many
leg
times.
L4 really needs to go in socket L4. And if you just clip off 8 legs and have them all mixed up on your hobby table, it's going to take you a long time to build anything that stands up on its own. Yeah.
That sucks. I suppose it would have to be very specific to get the foot to be exactly where it needs to be to, like, be level, to stand up properly.
That's another thing. So this model, with the base size that this model goes with, only 3 of the legs actually go on the base, and so there are 3 little pointy tips of a spider legs that, like, are just barely doing a little grip on the outside edge of this circular base here.
How do you even attach that? Are there little, like, foot things, or is it literally the point of the foot?
The point of the foot, and the model building skills required for this kit do not necessarily line up with the learn to paint nature of this kit, but so anyway, that's why I like to do a little of compliment, severe criticism, and then maybe later on I'll find a compliment. But the Paint Night kits, WizKids Paint Night kits, very nice. This Drider should not be a beginner's introduction to any part of this hobby. Man. Yeah, from just gluing it right, getting the 8 legs in the right places, getting the 3 little tips of the legs to stick to the base. It's a bit of a tricky one. And then, of course, the actual choice of the monster for painting is also a little bit silly. So for the red slad, that's just like a big frog guy that has big frog eyes, big frog face, a little smile. And so for me as a novice painter with these cheap little paintbrushes that come in the kit, yeah, I can paint that frog up to look okay. But with the Drider, it is a giant spider body, which has some fun texture on it. There's some stuff you can do there.
Mm-hmm.
But then this tiny little elf head, like
just poking out
among
the
the
top.
smallest heads I've painted for any like 28mm scale mini. Like, it just tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a decent bit of detail on there. Like, there are definitely eye sockets and the little orbs of eyeballs. The mouth is open, and like there's a little ridge of teeth in there that the paintbrush included in that kit is never going to.
Yeah. Giving him some teeth looking lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got an excuse to paint the Drider from WizKids Frameworks. Again, one of these things that so few people are ever actually going to paint anything from that line. It's sad, but we're keeping it alive, Casey. Us here on Paint Bravely, we're keeping the Frameworks dream alive.
I mean, we basically dedicated an entire episode to a single model kit, from that range. So, yeah, I'd say that we're probably we're championing this thing.
We gotta research this, Casey, and come back strong with Drider talk. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about some Dark Souls, a little bit of compare and contrast. That sounds awful. I'm not doing that.
Sounds awful.
Well, okay. At least since we can sandwich this back up, there's a little meat in there. Maybe it's gone bad. Is the model does it look pretty decent? Because from what you're holding up that I can see, it looks all right.
It is a solidly decent model. It's not my best paint job, but there's a lot of good texture on it. The pose is pretty cool. The head is very tiny, but otherwise pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel like that's good. That's not bad.
For a more advanced painter who's into drow and spiders and the Underdark, yeah, it's a pretty cool kit. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure and close up that sandwich before we move on.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just looking out.
Mm-hmm.
The other bit of news as far as Frameworks goes is that I know they've been recently. I don't think they've been discontinued, but heavily discounted from most online retailers. I don't know what that means for the line. I'm guessing not good things. I don't think people are actually buying them, which sucks. I mean, it sucks for WizKids, I suppose.
It sucks for me because I made two videos trying to hype up this line. You were the chosen one, Frameworks. You were supposed to bridge the two worlds. Yeah. Supposed to get D&D players into being mini painters. Yeah.
I mean, it's so tough, right? Because I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of D&D people paint minis, and that's a big thing. But is the quality what they're actually after? Did they do that research and go, yes, this is why people aren't painting more minis in D&D? The quality is lacking. It's is that really the case? Because normally when I see D&D players that paint, they have shelves of stuff.
True.
True. Shelves. And it doesn't seem to be a problem that it's it's not painted great. It's fine. It's good enough. For an encounter or something, that feels fine. I don't know if I'd want to spend 20 hours on something that's going to get killed in 2 minutes. Yeah. Unless you're planning on facing a lot of
talk
Driders.
About my Dark Eldar some other time.
Yeah. We'll throw that updated next week. Oh, man. I've been painting a real tiny face today. That's what I've been doing today. So I've been working on a little bit of mini hammer. Been printing out a bunch of models. I've got 2 war bands made up and a bunch of terrain for mini Warcry. Because for some reason, and I don't know why, but it's great. Games Workshop decided to release all of the Warcry rules, or at least like the basics, the basic version of it, just to get going and to play and have the cards all for free. Like, you can go to the community page and download all of them. And for all of the factions, they have all of the models that are generally included in the books. Like, they're just giving it away, which is great. And I wonder what they're holding back. I don't know. It seems pretty legit to me. So I decided to paint out basically like 15 millimeter models.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been like, teeny tiny little faces.
Nice.
Today, and that's been pretty good. So, I wonder how small the faces on that Drider comparatively.
It's bigger than your 15 millimeter models. Yeah, it is. So for movement, are you just halving everything? Just divide by 2, or do the centimeter to inches trick?
I've heard that does work, and then I actually did the math, and it doesn't.
Well, it's not exactly
like, it's
2.
not
It's
actually
2.5
correct.
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 2.5, so 2.53, I'm pretty sure is the exact number. But, so yeah, you have to do that. But, no, what I actually did this time is I scaled everything down by a certain percentage, including the measurer. So the board is half the size. The measurement tool is half the size.
There you go.
That's all I did.
There you go.
So now everything's just in scale. And I mean, this is probably 50%. So an inch is half an inch now. Okay. But I can still use this and use all of the cards to measure everything.
So you're measuring in tiny inches. That's your units.
That's my units. Tiny inches. Yeah. Like, because it doesn't matter as long as you have a measuring tool that is in scale.
Yeah, if you just shrink down your ruler, then now you measure in tiny inches. Yeah.
Well, because all the cards don't say inches; they just give you a number. It's 3, 4, 5. So it's like, okay, 3 of whatever this is.
Yeah, well, it works.
Is now your movement. So, so I've been shrinking a lot of stuff down. I found some really good, easy ways to print things out that, like, have actually made 3D printing kind of fun. A lot less failures. Basically filling the entire tray of my printer and having it come out. I mean, printing tiny models out almost guarantees success because there's just not a lot to print.
Right.
So things don't get heavy. You can use light supports on everything. So everything just like comes right off of the supports. You barely have to do anything.
Yeah. So
it's just been like a kind of cool experience, I suppose, with bridging these two games and worlds and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of tiny faces, little tiny Stormcast dudes, little multi-part kits, which I think is pretty fascinating. You can print out full-size models in a smaller scale, support them kind of just by clicking the support this thing button, and because they're so small, you're really not going to have any issues. So I did like 11 different Stormcast models, and they have Stormcast heads, and they're all multi-part, like arms and shields and swords and all sorts of stuff, and they go together like pretty cool. So I'm making a video about that because it's been a good time, and I think people need to know.
No, that does sound fun. It sounds fresh and interesting. You're gonna tell people how to paint those tiny faces, and yeah, hey, putting out the rules for free is a good move, and I'm not gonna say otherwise. That's great. Yeah, give that a little bit of free hype because they deserve it for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's for probably one of their best games too. Just like as a game that you can pick up and play and learn in like literally 10 minutes. I mean, it's not a hard game, but there's a lot of fun stuff in it. So, yeah, you don't even really have to read that many rules. Like, there's like a little page that's like, here's the turn order, here's how to get started, and that's about it.
Yeah. Give them that positive
So
reinforcement
even you could do that.
of thank you for the free rules, and here's how to download proxies that look exactly like their minis and print them out at whatever scale you want. Give that.
Exactly. It's a little bit of like a backhanded
Juice
compliment,
those sales,
right? Yeah. Like, thank you, One Page Rules. I mean, Games Workshop. I actually did print out the One Page Rules ruler. That's what I did print out. They actually have a whole like ruler and tokens set. So I printed those out in a smaller scale, and I'm going to be using those. But I am finding it a little daunting to paint, like, I don't know, there's a lot of little terrain and little pieces, and like the tokens especially. I printed out like 100 tokens thinking like, oh, this is not so bad. And it's like, that's stupid. I don't even know how to like stick those down so they don't fly off if I'm trying to paint them. It's awful.
So I will say you probably didn't need to print the tokens tiny. I think the tokens can be man size, you know.
I mean,
you printed them small, didn't you?
Yeah, I printed them small. I printed them tiny. But I mean, it was for because like when you activate one of your guys, you put a little like, you've activated this guy token down, you know. So they're tiny. They gotta be tiny. These little guys are teeny tiny.
You make a good point.
I did figure out a good way to like take supportless or miniatures without supports and like put them on a base and then like export the STL and then support them that way. So all of the bases, they don't have like a stupid elephant's foot or anything. They just print out and they're already on a cool base.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Are you doing that in Blender or what?
Just a lot. No, actually just in Lychee.
Okay. Yeah.
The slicer, yeah. So that's like my thinking is I'm going to go about it like setting up this whole thing, because you could do it with regular size models too, but setting it all up so that it's basically done when you hit print. You just have to take them off and paint them. So that's the idea.
Yeah, no, one of the cool things about 3D printing is that there is less assembly a lot of times. Yeah, the limitations of what a printer can do are very different from what a 2-part mold can do. Yeah, right. Last time I was showing off that raptor being ridden by a dinosaur. We were holding up like a pistol in one hand and a club in the other and yelling at the sky, and that was one print. I mean, whoever put the supports on had to make sure that they got the supports all at the right angles and stuff, and
that's a whole skill on its own.
Not easy, and I bet there are poses for that, raptor that do not work so well. Yeah,
right.
You have to have some supports coming in at some just monstrous angles to make it work, but yeah, it's pretty cool when you can just print things out, and you got to clean off the nubs, but you don't have to glue 15 pieces together. So yeah.
Right. I did find that with light supports, and maybe it's the scale, I'm not 100% sure, but the nubs just aren't there. Like they barely touch the model. So like I dunk them in like pretty hot water for 30 seconds, and they just come right off.
That's nice when that happens.
Yeah, it's very satisfying to like take a 3D print out and just have that kind of like Velcro. It just rips right off. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
So you've been printing stuff out, painting up a lot of space crocs?
Yeah, I've been working on my space crocs from One Page Rules here. So I'm getting ready for an event. Yeah, I've got a challenge of 1 page rules, Grimdark Future, Star Host Saurians, SSH, we're SHS? Saurian Star Host, SSH.
SHS, yeah. Or Saurian Star Host, okay. What did you call it? I don't know what you call it.
Saurians in space, dinosaurs in space. Which are basically lizard men with rocket launchers in the best way possible, and these models are freaking amazing.
Yeah,
and I'm really excited about them. And Man, just foreshadowing here, teasing here, but for a possibly related reason, I got a box of Monument Hobbies paints in the mail the other day, and
for a possibly
related reason, and so I'm painting these up with a lot of Monument Hobbies paints, and I'm gonna give a shout out to, now write this down, folks. Bright neutral gray. Okay, so
yes.
One of the nice things about the Pro Acryl paints is that they're all named reasonable things. Blue,
yeah,
purple, like sky blue is the most whimsical name in there.
Right.
Or jade. Yeah, everything else is just a very, I don't know if technical is the right word, but it's descriptive and useful.
Yeah, it's just appropriate. Like, it is what it is.
I mean, I guess you have to know what the word burgundy means to find the burgundy paint, but other than that, yeah. You don't have to know like, who corn is or Slanesh, or you don't have to know what color a wizard's orb would be. You don't have to know what color a sorcerer's cloak would be. Like, it's all very intuitive. Goblin green, you can guess to a degree.
I do like that about that paint range. I think green is just green, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got a green, but they also have like a camo green, dark camo green. Camo green maybe is the most esoteric.
Yeah. Camo green, because it is that like darker, I mean, you call it like olive.
It's what I think of as an army green. Yeah.
Yeah. But actual green, just green. Just says green right on the bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that.
But yeah, as I was testing around here, so I want to do some bright colors on the scales and then have kind of an off-white armor for these lizards. And
bone armor, huh?
Sort of. Not a warm gray, but a neutral gray. A bright neutral gray.
I see.
Yeah.
That makes perfect
sense. But painting white and off-white is obviously tricky, and sometimes it takes a lot of layers, and it can be chalky, and just kind of a mess. So I was a little bit leery about my strategy of just spray paint the lizard's bright color, and then try to paint on a white armor after that. That could have had a very high failure rate, but here comes along this bright neutral gray that I don't want to say one coat coverage, but like 1.5 coat coverage covers that right up. Smooth. It's it's a gray, but it is a light gray, and it kind of presents as white most of the time. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, just if you don't have any other white on the model, I almost always use like a bright ivory. Or like a bright gray. Like I have bright warm gray.
Yeah.
I use that a lot. And it just looks like white.
Yep.
Like you can't tell.
And I mean, if we were just using light gray from Craft Smart, we would not get that nice smooth coverage, I tell you what. Yeah.
No, that might have ruined your models.
Yeah. Now, there's definitely still a few paints in that line that are just, like, thinner than I would want them to be. Like, I like the ritual of thinning my paints down a little bit as I use them, whereas a lot of the stuff from Monument Hobbies is already, like, perfect right where it should be to actually use, or very close at least, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's definitely a few bottles in that set that are doing exactly what I need them to do, and are going to make this lizard army nice and easy. So I bought myself a treat. I went out and I bought myself another steel vertical nail polish rack. So just like the two, identical to the two behind me here. And I found a way to mount it onto my desk. I got some zip ties out. Got some big black zip ties out, and I secured it nice nice and solid on my
It's
left
tight.
hand side. So like the left edge of my desk is now just a vertical black nail polish rack with a lot of Monument Hobbies paints in there, a little bit of Reaper paints in there too. We'll see what other knickknacks I fill in the gaps with, but
Sure.
I hadn't realized how much I needed another paint rack at my desk, and actually the way I put it in is I have a monitor there for watching Netflix or whatever while I'm painting, and I just did the thing where I turned the landscape monitor to portrait mode, which opened up plenty of space just to put a paint rack there, and worth 100%.
And now you have a slightly smaller screen.
Well, that's the thing. I spent a couple hours like trying to see how small a screen you can actually buy in 2022, and the answer is 21 and a half inches for like a 1080p.
Oh, for a 1080,
yeah. Companies are still selling like weird smaller resolution things in smaller sizes, but I don't know. I feel like I made a vow with myself like 5 years ago never to buy even another 1080p monitor, so I was
right.
so I was certainly not going to buy a 1600 by 900 or whatever they are. Certainly wasn't gonna do that, but in the end I'm just like, no,
I mean, you could always go with the field monitor.
Turn the monitor I already have here into portrait mode that opens up enough space for me to put another paint rack in, which is way more useful than big screen YouTube or Netflix or whatever. So
yeah, for sure. I usually use like a TV as a camera monitor, because that's the only thing that I watch YouTube on. I don't watch it on my computer, on my phone or any of that stuff. So like generally when I do color grading, it's to a TV, right? Which is probably not best practices or anything. I have a nice monitor that works fine, but shit, I forgot what I was
trying to say. You have a TV on your painting desk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got it. We're good. It's fine. I'm editing this podcast this week. Matt's not. He's in Disneyland, so I got it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so I also use a field monitor that can be battery powered or plugged in. And that's HD. And you can plug stuff into it, HDMI, whatever. And that's 7 inches.
Okay, there's an idea.
And that works pretty
There's
good.
an idea.
Yeah.
Just open up a room, get another paint rack in there. Hey.
You could. I mean, honestly, I think paint racks are more important than having a TV like next to your painting station where you're literally not looking at it to do the painting. Like, I get it, because I do it. I watch stuff all the time. Usually just like Bluetooth my AirPods from my computer so I can listen to it, and then occasionally look up.
Sure.
And that's pretty immersive while you're painting and everything with headphones in. But yeah, having more paint, I think that's the way to go. I think you should look into that field monitor with HDMI inputs. Something small, something good, because they have like 4K monitors, and I mean even greater, like 6 and 8K.
Dang.
Because they're small. So just throw it out there.
That's interesting.
Could be a
because I just found it weird that I was in a situation where I was trying to buy the smallest 1080p monitor I could so that I could watch my stories while I was painting, and
yeah.
And anything that was smaller than 21 and a half inches, it was, here's a resolution from 15 years ago, and it has a VGA input.
Yeah, that's what they're selling it for, is people who are still into like old things.
They're clearing out a warehouse where somebody made a mistake and put an extra 0 on an order form 15 years ago. Yeah.
That's probably true. It is amazing to me that like you can still just go and buy a 720p TV.
Right.
Like, it's weird. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, who's buying that?
I mean, there's just got to be a factory somewhere that's still making those panels, and got to do something with them. Yeah. There's,
I suppose so.
There are plenty of people who will go to Target or Walmart or Best Buy and be looking at the wrong stat. Yeah.
Right. This thing is 42 inches. It must be great. It's still 720.
Anyway,
bummer.
I seriously think my painting station took at least a half step forward just by putting in another paint rack. And I already had a little paint rack for my little like Vallejo pots, but now I've got one of these big boys with a lot of Monument Hobby Pro acrylic paints in there. So
that's got to add a good half to a full point to your hobby rating.
And I didn't want to assume, I didn't want to brag, but it might be a full point on the whole.
You're already past the bragging stage and just to being an asshole about it, so it's fine. Like anything you add at this point, it's just assumed.
I don't know if I told you a couple of months ago, maybe 1 month ago, I did what I had to do. I drove over to Staples. I bought another one of these chairs, like these nice office chairs for my airbrush station downstairs. I was tired of sitting in that like wooden kitchen chair and giving my back problems every time I went to do some airbrushing. And now, oh man. But again, that's just bragging about how many points my hobby setup has. So yeah.
That's true. You did mention that you purchased an expensive office chair. Because don't lie, it was like 180
no or 190. It was up there.
Yeah. That's up there. It doesn't even matter. It's not like a $10 wooden chair, right? And you also said in the same sentence, my airbrush station that's not in the same room that you're currently in, which then says that there's an entire other space that you have as a hobby area. So now we're talking multiple spaces. We've gone past the 10 mark on this. It's fine. That's good though. Because nothing's worse than having a real terrible chair. And
I'm a hobby guy. I can put together a Drider kit, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, good hour and a half. It's fine. Know where the legs are supposed to go.
That's right. All right. What else is new with you, Casey?
Oh man, I've been doing a lot of 3D printing. I guess that's really what's been going on. Because I'm packing up my hobby space, closing shop, and but my 3D printers are still up and running. Before I get to that, I did end up getting a house. I got a studio space, so I am packing everything up, and that's been a huge, horrible pain. Because you're installing paint racks over there. I'm taking them down. And it is awful. Like I've been trying to look for paints that's like in my head. I'm like, I know exactly where these things are. They're within arm's reach. I've got everything I need. No, they're gone. Like I spent like an hour looking for this one particular scale 75 green to paint that Kings of War model that I was working on that I sent to you. And I literally couldn't find it. I looked for like an hour. It's in a box somewhere. It's gone. Because I've been trying to work on this 3D printing stuff, I did leave my 3D printing stuff out. Haven't packed that away. And I've been printing out Idols of Torment. That's what I've been printing out. If you don't know what that is, because nobody's talked about it yet, except for Jeremy over at Black Magic Craft, it's a game that he created. It's a skirmish game, miniature agnostic, but it does come with a bunch of models. And his Kickstarter for that game starts in, a couple days?
Something like that.
So I think by the time this episode goes up, it'll be there. I'll include the links if it is up, and we'll be talking about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, the placeholder page is up on Kickstarter.
Probably on the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll make sure the link goes in so you can check it out. But yeah, he's put a lot of effort into this. It's been a long time coming. It's got some really cool models. just kind of a nice. It's like a really dark, black magic craft setting. So if you're into that kind of thing, this is definitely for you. I'm pretty excited. I haven't gotten to painting any of them yet. I've printed out a lot of the models, and I've put like primer and a zenithal on everything. So that's as far as I've gotten so far.
Yeah. So Idols of Torment, Jeremy's. It's a model agnostic game, but a lot of the models are available as 3D printable files, and some of the models are actually available as polystyrene hips, like injection molded sprue
that's probably the
models.
Important bit.
So
yes.
The game is about you're a bunch of like evil dudes running around in the Echo, which is, I don't know, purgatory or something, and there's like these lost souls running around or something, and you've gotta reap the souls, I think is my understand. The word reap is definitely used as a verb.
Yeah, you're throwing all these keywords out. I've heard these before.
But the lost souls of people wandering around in the Echo, there's a set of 8 of those that come on a plastic sprue, and the people who made that sprue are the same folks who are doing it's Archon Studio. It's the same folks who do Dungeons and Lasers, and they do the Ramparts. They are producing for Conquest, the newer Conquest lines, Gale Force 9. Actually, even Army Painter has a little set of adventurers that have the same looking sprue that says "Made in Poland" on it. Yeah.
Made in Poland. Yeah.
And so it's coming to my realization that Archon Studios is making moves. They're a big player now, and it's just really cool to see Jeremy like get an actual sprue made. That just seems like such a step up, like such an achievement to have injection molded minis that are your very own, and the bottom of these bases say Black Magic Craft on them. So congrats to Jeremy. I mean, it's a mark that he's super serious about this game, and that he's invested in it, and that he's gonna do what it takes to make it awesome. So yeah, and the videos that I've seen of him, he's clearly in the zone, has the vibe of this game. Supposedly it's fun. I haven't read the rule book yet because that takes a lot of work to get me to read a rule book. That's not what you do.
Yeah, you're like, I'll paint these 100%. Not reading the book. That's fine. I haven't read them either. I've just been trying to print everything out, like in between packing all this stuff up. So it's like, oh man, I gotta like make sure to get all these done before I have to move everything, and I'm not gonna know where resin is. So yeah, just trying to get that out of the way, I suppose. Another cool thing, it's kind of along the same lines, is Vince and Uncle Adam. Vince Venturella and Uncle Adam putting out a new game. And it looks pretty interesting. The art style is very like unique.
It looks good
and colorful. It looks really cool. And I'm actually kind of excited.
What's the name of the game?
Because it's
okay.
I'm getting there.
Or you have to check your notes.
I'm getting there. No, I see it. Space Station Zero. It's right there on the monitor. I had it the whole time. No, I really did. Okay. It's another like model agnostic skirmish game, which is becoming more and more of a thing that I think people are really getting into, because it is like, I have all these models, what am I going to do with them? Yeah. There's a lot of games out there that we just don't play because they're very specific. If you're playing Warhammer, people are going to look at you funny if you're like, well, I have this 3D printed, space lizard army, right? Yeah, they're gonna wonder what you're trying to do. So yeah, things like Idols of Torment and Space Station Zero coming out pretty soon look pretty interesting. I'm excited for all of them.
Yeah,
and I'm really hoping that the stuff does well. Yeah, because the more hobby stuff coming out of like I don't know, people that we see often, like within the hobby itself, a lot of faces that we know just continuing to put stuff out is just really exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
6 months
it's good all
ago,
around.
Mini Wargamer Dave, Mini Wargaming Ravage Star. Yeah, heck yeah. And for the Space Station Zero, I mean, this is the second year that, what are Vince and Adam calling themselves? Snarling Badger Studios, I think, something like that. Yeah,
I
got
think that's
Badger
what it
in
is,
there.
yeah.
I think it's Snarling Badger. But yeah, this is the second game they've put out. Last year was Rain in Hell, which I printed out a lot of minis for and haven't painted yet, but one of these days... That's... Okay. Adam, Vince, slow it down. It takes me more than a year to paint anything, so slow it down. Like, if I...
Well, it did surprise me. Honestly.
If I print up a whole bunch of roguish spacefaring crew members and going to the space station or whatever that game's about, and then next year I have to, get hardcore into knights or something.
Or Knights, or it'll be the Old West. That's the next logical choice, right? Yeah.
I think they've said publicly that they have a whole series planned on a yearly basis, and I'm slow it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Because I would like to get my Rain in Hell painted, but if nobody's even caring about Rain in Hell now that Space Station Zero's out, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we did go to the demo game and look into that and learn how to play. We didn't actually sit down and play, but we watched. So I feel like I got something in there. But yeah, even then, I haven't painted anything for that game. I have the book. That's about it. Yeah. Even still, the art style for this game looks really cool, and I'm excited to even just have the book, get a nice physical copy of it to throw in my collection and to pull out every so often, see how it goes.
And you were just saying that people are getting more interested in model agnostic games because you can paint whatever models seem awesome to you and play a game with your friends where your friends are, using whatever models seem awesome to them from wherever they happen to source those. And yes, people are getting more into these games, and part of that is because of our pals Vince and Adam, right?
Yeah.
They are leaders in making people interested in this stuff, and not that they're the first ones, but they are, folks with an audience and some power there to make that change in the hobby, and I think it's a positive one. And then, of course, Idols of Torment has the option of, here's some models that do go with the game, but it is model agnostic, so do what you want. And yeah, it is really cool to see that moving along and that becoming more of an accepted thing.
Yeah, 100% agree. Having that flexibility of not having to lock down a specific set of models or something that's in a specific scale is pretty freeing. And man, if they're going to put out a game a year, I don't know, maybe we'll have to look into each book, find the main theme of the thing. They're oh, well, there's always gangers in this one, right? Always one of those, regardless of system. I'll build something that I can just kind of put in each one. These are demon gangers.
Well,
see,
eventually we will all reach a level of our collections where we have enough. We have somewhere in our library, we've got a couple of cowboys there in our library, a couple of real 6-shooters.
Man, that'll be the day. I'll have to tick that one off the list, when I get a couple of cowboys in my mini collection.
So something I've been doing, I've been doing it more and more frequently, is just doing a black base. Not doing any basing or anything, but just doing a black base. And I think that has an advantage when we're talking about just being able to mix and match from your collection and put together a little crew. That's
interesting.
Your future cowboys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't really think about that. Is it worth separating specific models out to do that?
Here's one take on that. If you don't have a brilliant idea for what you want to do with a base, maybe that's your excuse, just to leave it as a nice flat black base until you either have an idea or that comes in really handy when that's going to combine with a lot of other generic minis to make a team.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Idols of Torment from Blackmagic Craft is model agnostic, but you're printing minis for it, like specifically for it. What team are you going with?
Yeah. I don't know yet. I printed out 2 different teams, and I wish I knew what they were called right now. I think one of them is the Wretched, something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But they got like these like frail little bodies, right? And they're kind of like floating off of these little mechanical stands, and they have like little wheels underneath them, and then like big arms kind of popping off the sides. Pull one out. Yeah, so I'm holding one up right now. YouTube.com/PaintBravely the podcast. I gotta throw that out there. If you are just listening to this on audio, we do have a video feed of both Brent and I talking over the internets because we don't live near each other at all. But I'm holding up a model right now, and you can kind of see it's like this mechanical contraption holding this little dude up, and he's got tubes all over him. I just thought these looked really cool because it's kind of like little zombie guys that are barely being kept alive. And there's just these like almost Victorian looking mechanical pieces that they've built so they can get around. And I think that's really cool.
Jeremy.
I know, right? it feels exactly like something he'd be like, oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
No, but I dig it. There's some really cool models in the line. And I'm looking forward to painting them. I still haven't, like I said, but I'm also putting some of these in an upcoming video, so I kind of have to. So that's the plan.
I've been printing some of the models from Strife, and that faction, the thing it most reminds me of is the movie The Ritual. So that's about hikers in like far rural Sweden, I think. But anyway, like way out in the woods of Sweden. And then all of a sudden they're dealing with a monster, and the monster in that movie is the best way I can describe it is a moose, but instead of a moose head, it's like a little baby head and little baby arms, and it's way scarier than that sounds. Like it's incredibly scary. So anyway, that's my faction, Strife, moose with little baby arms.
So according to D&D, this is a boos.
It probably has a name, but yeah.
It probably does.
But the little baby arms are strong. It can like pick people up, but yeah.
Right. They got a strong hand. Just real strong.
But yeah, there's about like the first moment you actually see the monster, because I mean for like the first half of the movie it's just all creepy and what's going on. And then all of a sudden, this monster just like peeks out from around a tree, and it's just like these little.
I see this like a little baby hand crawling around a corner, like pulling out its little doll head. Like,
please leave below in the comments what you thought of the movie The Ritual. And then Ritual. You look into Idols of Torment, because you can play as the Ritual, but they call it Strife in that game. Yeah.
Right, but you got
I'm telling you, the moose with baby hands, he's doing some serious reaping of souls. Like, that is what he was made to do. Huh.
I'm going to have to go back through my STLs and pick that one out special, because that sounds pretty incredible. Oh, man. It's only something that Jeremy could get away with, too. Like, if somebody else came out, they'd be like, what are you doing? Like, this doesn't make sense. It's like, no, this makes perfect sense.
It does. Yeah.
Oh, man. What else have you been up to?
You want to talk about Conquest, Casey? You finished assembling your Conquest. You were all excited about it.
I did. I am excited about it. I finished building my Conquest. And I gotta tell you, as nice as the kits are, it took me the stupidest amount of time to put together these their Old Dominion Legionnaires, right? And it's like, they don't seem that difficult on paper. And it's like, okay, there's a front, there's a back, there's some legs, a little foot that attaches.
I think the heads are 3 pieces. It's head. Like face, back of the helmet, top of the plume. So I mean, there's a few little things like, okay, this is more pieces than it might need to be, but
yeah. And as far as like cleanup work goes, that was a little bit of a pain, like the plumes and the heads, because they're kind of small, right? So trying to hold those, and they're half of the size, right? It's the front half of the face. That was a little bit of a pain. Mold lines weren't terrible. They're like one scrape and they're gone kind of thing. So I didn't really have any issues with that so much, but man, I don't know. It just took me forever. It was like a good solid like 4 or 5 days of work. Of like, I sat down for like 3 or 4 hours at a time and it wasn't done yet.
Right.
So that kind of killed me a little bit. It's like hurt my soul because I was like excited about this, right? And I hate that more than anything. It's building models because I want to get to the painting part, right? That's my goal. And so when I'm like, I'm going to get this kit out, like I'm literally thinking in my head, I'm going to be painting this tonight. I'm going to be putting paint down. And that has not been the case. So I've been a little disappointed. Now that all being said, I bought 2 more boxes. Not of those, but of different models from that army. I bought the horses, like a legion of horses. There's like 3 of them in a box, and they're a unit. And another one of the like single leader guys, because it breaks down to where you have to have a specific leader to take certain troops and all that business. And it makes sense. It's one of those things. So I needed one to bring the horses in, right? The horses took me all of 45 minutes to put together. No problem. I just thought it was kind of insane how like the difference between one kit and the other. Like that's a big difference. That's worth mentioning. I think
that may be the case for any model line, but yeah, I've also been putting together some Conquest minis, and I also had that experience of like, wow, these legionaries doesn't seem like they're that many bits, but they're taking a long time to put together. And then I was also putting together some of the orcs, and those went together reasonably fast. I mean, roughly the same number of bits, but for whatever reason, they seem to be going together a lot faster. And I did want to remember to give a shout out to the orcs, the Wadroon from Conquest. If you just want some cool generic orc fighters, I mean, they are a larger scale, but it's orcs, so you can have them be big orcs. That's fine.
Yeah.
The Braves/Blooded kit, like the close combat orcs, that's actually a pretty cool kit of orcs. They're not perfect. There's a few gaps like on the shoulders that are going to take a little bit of work, but just as a new take on orcs that have a lot of dynamic poses, a lot of really cool weapons and cool equipment. That's just a shout out. Like if you need some generic orcs, Conquest orcs. I don't like the slinger kit as much. The slingers and the javelin throwers I don't like as much, but like the close combat orcs, nice. Yeah.
That makes sense because you get, what is it, like a weapon in each hand kind of thing?
Some of them are, and that same kit also has, I think, spear in one hand and shield in the other. But yeah, a lot of their more recent kits do have the option, like it's a dual kit of you can have a unit of this or a unit of that. And so,
which I actually appreciate quite a bit because it leaves a lot of leftover, good quality plastic. Which I've put together kits that have had stuff left over that are not the best quality plastic, and it's like I don't know if I want to keep these. Like, are they worth keeping? But that polystyrene plastic, man, like it's valuable, and having just an absolute ton of leftover bit. Like I ended up with a bag of bits left over at the end, and it's like, okay, this feels good. Like I feel like I'm getting, my money's worth, I suppose.
Well, it's also nice if you're kind of sampling the line. Like if you're a little Conquest curious over there yourself, you can buy one box and make, 6 of one variant, 6 of the other, and in some cases they're fairly different models. Like the difference between the orc slinger and the orc javelin thrower, there actually is a fair bit of difference there. But it's kind of nice as like a little taster kit. As giving you a little taste of 2 different units for one box. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they do literally have taster
Which
kits.
is...
Isn't that what they're actually called?
I wish they were a little bit cheaper, but yeah, that is something that I have not seen other companies do, which is really cool. If you buy a set of, 12 Legionnaires, it might be like 3 identical sprues with kind of enough stuff to make 4 on each. So Conquest is selling these taster kits. They're like 1 sprue from this kit, 1 sprue from this kit, and then like a leader. So it might be a total of 9 miniatures, but you can make a total, basically like 5 different units, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and my assumption with those kits and why they're like $50 is that I think that probably brings in most of what you need to do their skirmish game.
Possibly, yeah.
That's what I'm.
But also,
I'm
I think
guessing, right? Like
they sell those, especially the resin leaders. I think they price their leaders at pretty close to $30 anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, they do. Although I do have it on fairly good word that they're replacing all of their resin with plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which in some ways
that's good news.
It is good news, but in terms of resin kits, I've actually been really impressed with the Conquest resin.
It's pretty nice, yeah.
Yeah, I've put together a couple of their resin kits now, and they fit together very well. Nice tight joints everywhere, ton of detail, not too much flashing. So as far as resin kits go, I'm surprisingly impressed with that.
Yeah.
And also I think for a lot of them they did a good job with the poses to make them durable poses. So
that's a good way to put it, actually.
There's, I think, several of the human officers are in the process of drawing their sword. So it's like they have their sword sheath is on their belt, and they have a hand on the hilt of their sword, and they're drawing it. But what that does is it gives, it's an action pose, they're doing something, but it also gives multiple points of contact, and you don't just have a flimsy resin sword sticking out ready to break off, which is good thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they a lot of the I don't know if I should say newer ones, but the one that I've worked on is a funky pose.
Okay.
That doesn't make a lot of sense. That dwarf, the Dweg Home Hold Ray, right? Because he's just standing there, and they put nice details on there. It's like a nice piece of resin, but the way that it was put together or sculpted makes it seem really weird. When you look at it at first, you're not 100% sure what it actually is. And I've heard that from multiple people. They're just I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
When I painted it, I tried to bring attention to those things to be oh, that's recognizable. I see what's happening here. And they did fix those issues that I had with it with their new plastic kit. But that's what I was thinking. It's a good point that you're making, is they made them more durable, right? The thing's probably not going to break. He's like a stump with, he's standing there, just kind of hanging out. So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe they were going for some durability in a line of troops kind of thing,
Yeah, Conquest is interesting. There's some stuff I really like. There's definitely some stuff I don't like. We were talking the other day about their bases. They're 25mm bases with these 38mm scale troops. Especially...
Yeah, you thought Space Marines was bad, on 25mm.
Especially the orc kit. Those are big orcs that are supposed to be on 25mm bases, and also if you're playing the rank and flank game where they're on their movement trays, it is hard to get all those orcs to stand together. And if they're standing separately, it's pretty easy to knock them over because the center of mass isn't quite where you want it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that a lot too, is that the actual center of mass on most of the models is not in the right spot. They're going to fall over. And even some of the newer like Old Dominion stuff, like the ghosty guys, right? I think you put together a few of those. They're like really leaning forward.
I think I glued most of them well, like moved them back.
Yeah, in the back, right, of the 25 millimeter base. We were talking about like ways that they could actually fix that. Because that's something I think they might have an issue with later. Right. So what did we end up deciding? It was you just replace the movement trays with like 32 mil bases or something and same size or something like that. I forget what it was.
Like ideally we would rewind the clock 3 or 4 years or whatever and do everything on 35 millimeter bases, 40 millimeter bases,
like 40 to be safe. Yeah.
But since we can't do that, I think one possibility is at least for the rank and flank game, change the movement trays, because the way it's done is that they're these movement trays that are 2x2 in terms of 2 models by 2 models. I think they might actually be like 3 inches or something total like that. But anyway,
something like that. Yeah,
they can just make that 2x2 square bigger and still have the 4 divots in the movement tray, but just have those divots a little bit farther away from each other. And there might be some tweaking in terms of like how far the block of minis can move. We haven't totally thought through like how this would affect the game, but just making cheaply available almost just bigger movement trays, I think might be the easiest answer to this. But I do think they kind of screwed up.
If you're measuring from the front,
I think the bases are too small. I think they did kind of screw up on that one. So
yeah, well, I mean, just in terms of numbers, right? You're literally talking about a 38 millimeter scale model on a 25 millimeter base.
It's not quite right.
Like it's not going to fit exactly right, and they're gonna fall over, and that's what ends up happening.
At Gen Con, the demo game, all the minis I were using had washers glued to the bottom of the bases, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about magnetizing
they had to
everything.
resort to that, but might be that is the easiest solution to the problem they have going for the skirmish game.
Yeah, other than literally telling people, okay, here's the pack of, trays you have to use now. Like, we're switching over.
Right.
I mean, I think they could get away with it. They could do it and just be like, hey, we made this decision. This makes a lot more sense. People are probably going to be happy about it. Yeah, maybe you got to spend $20-$30 on new trays or something. That doesn't seem that far-fetched.
No, that sounds doable. But I think it would be much harder to all of a sudden start selling 35 millimeter bases, because that would be a lot harder for people to play with each other. If you swap out the trays, like one player just has to bring a bunch of trays with them, and both players can immediately be playing on the same size tray. But if one person rebases to 35 millimeter bases and the other person has 25 millimeter bases, that could be a problem.
That becomes an issue. Yeah. Now, I mean, if that's why we're saying, if the trays are the same, then it doesn't matter. If the bases are different, that's an issue. I mean, only if the trays are then also different for that specific reason.
I follow you. I don't know if anyone at home is following either of us, but I follow you, Casey.
We're just talking about this super specific thing.
If we're doing this in
we got one person who's sitting there like, I know what you're talking. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
25 millimeters or 25 tiny inches? That's the question.
I prefer tiny inches. Yeah. I did think that was pretty smart.
You're a smart guy, Casey.
That's good.
And yeah, I haven't fully congratulated you on your move. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see your new workspace and possibly put some numbers on it. Maybe we'll go down the list of pros and cons once you're installed there. But that's only a few weeks away at this point, right?
Oh man, we're signing papers on the 21st of this month. So yeah, in like a week and a half or something. It's very, very soon. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. I can tell you that the actual workshop is pretty cool. So it's a 3-car garage. The 2-car garage portion is basically like I don't know, somebody made it like a workout studio, or somebody was like in there a lot. There's a heater, there's an air conditioner. It's all separate, thermostat. And the dude that built it, or that, paid somebody else to build it, ran air hose lines through all the walls. So there are regulators coming out in a couple of spots in the actual building. So I'm good to go for airbrushing. Yeah. That's all that's in there right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I need ideas, though. I do need ideas, because there's a lot of space. It's a lot more space than I have now. It's going to be interesting.
You will fill it up easily.
I know. That's the
But that's awesome. I'm excited for you. We'll check back in. Check back in. Let us know how that's going.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you how terrible it is to move.
I'm ready. But 2 weeks after that is going to be great.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be the follow-up.
I've been icing my back for the past 2 weeks, and
how many models survived
didn't get anything done.
That'll be the thing. I'll keep track of how many things I broke along the way, how many models didn't make it, that I now can legitimately make a video about. Like, I'm gonna repair all the broken stuff that I broke when I moved, and that's my justification for making an easy video.
Yeah.
It just glued stuff back together.
Reviewing all of the fragile stuff that broke during my move.
Yeah, exactly. Pulling it out one at a time.
Nice.
Most of the stuff I have, I put in like clear bins, and I already know that there's some broken stuff. I snapped like the top off of an orc guy when I put the lid on it. Yeah. It's not good. I'm not looking forward to opening all of that stuff back up. Right now, it's like they might as well not be broken because I can't see them. So I'll just keep that in my head for now. Worry about the damage later.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up here, Casey.
That sounds good. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of Paint Bravely. If you enjoyed this podcast, please help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and sharing this message with your hobby friends. And as always, we appreciate each and every one of you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time.